To track the profits from the sales of an economy truck, the marketing department has built functions from data on the past several years. Each year, the number sold has followed the function n of x equals negative 1/10 x squared plus 8/10 x plus 5 in millions of trucks, where x represents the number of years after the first year the truck was put on the market. The price of the truck has risen according to the function p of x equals 1 2/10 x plus 21 in thousands of dollars. The function for the total revenue generated r of x in millions of dollars is the product of the number of trucks sold n of x and the price of each truck p of x. The total profit each year, also in millions of dollars, has been about 22% of the revenue generated. Using symbolic multiplication of the functions, write the function for total profit t of x from the sales of the trucks. Simplify the expression using the properties of algebra, then compare the projected profit from this year's sales 10 years after the year the truck was put on the market to the first year. So we want to find the total profit t of x. And so it tells us that t of x is 22% of the revenue generated. So we could write that out. 22% as a decimal would be 22 hundredths times r of x. And so we don't actually know the function for r of x, but we do know it tells us up here that the revenue r of x is equal to the product of n of x, this function here, times and p of x. And so just substituting that in for r of x, then we'll know that r of x is n of x times p of x. And so now we can substitute in the functions that they give us for n of x and p of x. So now I've gone ahead and I've just substituted in for n of x and p of x here, and then we still have the 22 hundredths on the outside. And we'll just keep that outside and multiply that in at the end. So we have negative 1/10 times 1 2/10, which will give us negative 12 hundredths, and then x cubed, since x squared times x. And then we have negative 1/10 times 21, so we'll get negative 2 1/10 x squared. And then we have 8/10 x times 1 2/10 x, which will give us plus 96 hundredths x squared. And then 8/10 x times 21 gives us 16 8/10 x. And then for the last term, 5 times 1 2/10 gives us 6, and then x because of the 1 2/10 x. And then 5 times 21 gives us 105. So now let's go ahead and combine any like terms we have. And so notice that this is the only x cubed term, so we can just leave that one alone. And then we have negative 2 1/10 plus 96 hundredths, and so we get negative 1 14 hundredths x squared. And then for the x's, we have 16 8/10 plus 6, and so that will give us plus 22 8/10 x. And then we also have the 105 still at the end. So now that we have those, then we can go ahead and multiply in the 22 hundredths. Negative 264 10,000ths x cubed minus 2,508 10,000ths x squared plus 5 16,000ths x plus 23 1/10. And so there's our function for our profit. Now to answer their final question, comparing 10 years after the truck was put on the market to the first year, then just remember x was years, and so we want to compare when x equals 10 to x equals 0. And so to compare those, we could just subtract and see what the difference in profit was. So we could use our profit formula function here and just do 10 t of 10 minus t of 0. And so t of 10 here, we would just go ahead and plug in 10 for every x value. So when we put that into a calculator, then we get 21 78 hundredths. And then t of 0, plugging that in, then we see that if we plug in 0 to each of these, then each of these terms, these first 3 terms will be 0, and then we're just left with 23 1/10. And so subtracting those two, 21 78 hundredths minus 23 1/10, we get negative 1 32 hundredths. And remember, that's in millions. So, according to this projection, then at 10 years, they're going to be doing worse by 1 32 hundredths millions of dollars. And so let's go ahead and summarize our answer. T of x equals 22 hundredths times r of x equals 22 hundredths times n of x times p of x. T of x equals 22 hundredths times negative 1/10 x squared plus 8/10 x plus 5 times 1 and 2/10 x plus 21. T of x equals 22 hundredths times negative 12 hundredths x cubed plus 96 hundredths x squared plus 6x plus negative 2 and 1/10 x squared plus 16 and 8/10 x plus 105. T of x equals 22 hundredths times negative 12 hundredths x cubed minus 1 and 14 hundredths x squared plus 22 and 8/10 x plus 105. T of x equals negative 264 10,000ths x cubed minus 2,508 x squared 2,508 10,000ths x squared plus 5 and 16,000ths x plus 23 and 1/10. T of 10 equals negative 264 10,000ths times 10 cubed minus 2,508 10,000ths times 10 squared plus 5 and 16,000ths times 10 plus 23 and 1/10 equals 21 and 78 hundredths. T of 0 equals 23 and 1/10. T of 10 minus T of 0 equals 21 and 78 hundredths minus 23 and 1/10 equals negative 1 and 32 hundredths. So profits for year 10 are projected to be down by 1 and 32 hundredths million dollars from the first year.